Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Munmun Bhattacharya. Coming up in the next hour, Prime Minister Narendra Modi addresses a large gathering of the Indian diaspora in Trinidad and Tobago, announces OCI cards for the 6th generation of people of Indian origin in Trinidad and Tobago. Prime Minister Narendra Modi receives a grand welcome in Port of Spain with a ceremonial guard of honor and special cultural performances. In a special gesture, PM of Trinidad and Tobago Kamla Persad Besasar and members of her cabinet received PM Modi at the airport. US President Donald Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill passes the Congress hurdle. Trump hails the sweeping tax and spending legislation as one of the most successful pieces of legislation in American history. In Birmingham Test, Shubman Gill's masterful double 100 puts India in the driver's seat against England. Visitors eye early wickets to extend dominance on day 3. Prime Minister Narendra Modi landed in Trinidad and Tobago as part of his 5-nation tour. PM Modi was received by Prime Minister of the Caribbean nation along with her cabinet and senior leaders. The two Prime Ministers also addressed Namaste Modi event, which was attended by thousands of Indian diaspora members from across the nation.
A rousing welcome for Prime Minister Narendra Modi as he landed in Trinidad and Tobago. In a special gesture, Prime Minister was received by Kamla Persad Besasar, the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, along with the members of her cabinet and several other dignitaries. Prime Minister arrived in Port of Spain on the second leg of his 5-nation tour in Africa and Latin America. Prime Minister was accorded a ceremonial guard of honor and welcomed with special cultural performances. Later, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, along with his counterpart Kamla Persad Besasar, attended the Namaste Modi event, where the two leaders addressed thousands of Indian diaspora members. At the event, Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago also announced nation's highest honor to Prime Minister Narendra Modi.
Through your benevolence with the vaccines initiative 4 years ago, when COVID-19 pandemic brought the world to its knees, while some other countries were hoarding medical supplies, you, sir, you ensured that vaccines and supplies reach even the smallest nations, including Trinidad and Tobago. Through your benevolence, you brought hope and calm where there was fear. I say again, this was more than diplomacy. This was an act of kinship. This was an act of shared humanity. This was an act of love. And this is one of the many reasons we are deeply proud to bestow upon you, Excellency, the Order of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago.
Addressing the Indian community, Prime Minister Narendra Modi recounted the deep historic and cultural bonds between the two countries. Prime Minister Narendra Modi also announced extension of the OCI cards to 6th-generation members of the Indian diaspora. He spoke about decision of mapping of Girmitia community to bring it closer for a bright future.
I am happy to announce that OCI cards will now be given to the 6th generation of the Indian diaspora in Trinidad and Tobago. You are not just connected by blood or surname. You are connected by belonging. India looks out you. India welcomes you. And India embraces you.
Later, Prime Minister Kamla Prasad Bisesar hosted a dinner in honor of Prime Minister Narendra Modi.
As Prime Minister Narendra Modi landed in Trinidad and Tobago, the world once again saw Modi brand of diplomacy. From Trinidad and Tobago conferring PM Modi with their highest award to PM Modi reciprocating and extending the OCI card for 6th generation of Indian diaspora in the country, the visit by PM Modi to the Caribbean nation is not only deepening the friendship between the two countries, but also is proving to be a milestone in India's outreach to the global south. With camera person Mohit Oike and Saurav Shukla, Akshay Dongre, TD India.
While addressing the Indian community members in Port of Spain on Thursday, Prime Minister Narendra Modi said that India is actively working on creating a comprehensive database of the Girmitia community, documenting the villages and cities in India from which their ancestors migrated. India is also working to organize World Girmitia conferences regularly. In the next report, DD India correspondent Akshay Dongre traces the journey of the Indian diaspora to Trinidad and Tobago.
On May 30th, 1845, the Fatal Razak arrived at Trinidad carrying 225 Indian indentured laborers or Girmitias, the dawn of a transformative chapter in the twin island nation's history. The term Girmit is the Avadi word for the agreement. Girmitia stood for the laborers who came from India on an agreement with the British. Over the next 7 decades, nearly 1,44,000 Indians arrived between 1845 and 1917. They hailed mostly from present-day Uttar Pradesh and Bihar. 1845, Fatal Razak arrives in Trinidad and Tobago with 225 Indians. 1845 to 1917, 1,43,939 indentured laborers landed. 1902, over half of sugarcane farming managed by Indians. 1962, diplomatic ties formalized post-independence. 2025, Indo-Trinidadians and Tobagonians form approximately 42% of the total population. Over past 180 years, the Indian diaspora preserved their culture, built thriving communities, and now stand proudly at the nation's helm, with Indian origin Kamla Prasad Bisesar as its Prime Minister. Clearly, though the Indian diaspora in Trinidad and Tobago had a hard landing on the nation's shores, it has weathered many a storm to emerge at the top of its society.
Primarily, our forefathers came from Bihar and Uttar Pradesh, and they brought with them a lot of folk traditions, including their Ramcharitamanas, which is still hugely popular here in Trinidad and Tobago. Our forefathers were simple but profound persons. They were simple in the skills that they came with, but they were very profound in the value system that they came with.
In fact, in his address to the members of Indian diaspora in Port of Spain, Prime Minister also underscored that India would be supporting several initiatives to nurture the Girmitia legacy.
We are actively working on creating a comprehensive database of the Girmitia community, documenting the villages and cities in India from which their ancestors migrated. Identifying the places where they have settled, studying and preserving the legacy of the Girmitia ancestors and working to organize World Girmitia conferences regularly. This will support the deep and historic ties with our brothers and sisters in Trinidad and Tobago as well.
This year, the Indian diaspora in Trinidad and Tobago is celebrating 180 years of the first indentured laborers landing in the nation. From the first ship across the oceans to the halls of governance, this diaspora has redefined identity and nationhood. Their journey embodies survival, adaptation, and leadership. Akshay Dongre's report from Port of Spain, Trinidad and Tobago.
PM Modi met his Trinidad and Tobago counterpart Kamla Persad Bisesar. Prime Minister Modi presented the replica of Ayodhya's Ram Temple, water from the holy Saryu River, along with the water from the Triveni Sangam to Kamla Persad Bisesar. Members of the Indian diaspora in Trinidad and Tobago were delighted as Prime Minister Narendra Modi visited the Caribbean nation. Our correspondent Aditya Srivastav brings us more.
It was so exciting day. We are very closely, we watched, we met Modi ji. It was so memorable day today. Thank you very much.
Modi,
You are
Modi.
very excited. Why?
Yes, I feel all my pores raised when he passed next to me. Beautiful, I feel energetic.
Thank you, Modi ji, for gracing us with your splendid presence here in Trinidad today. Thank you again and again.
I was very excited to see him for where he came and where he become now Prime Minister of India. That's really tremendous. And the shoes he wore when he was going to school, he had no shoes. And he used to take the chalk and color his shoes to get it white. That impressed me such a great deal. That is humility. Beautiful.
I was so excited that Prime Minister Modi was coming, and I was so happy that I could meet him at such a close range. I haven't seen him so close. I'm so happy to be here.
Very, very much. Great. It's such a great guy, great man come to this country. So we welcome him.
Miss World Trinidad and Tobago 2025 Annalise Nanton, who represented her country in the beauty pageant held in India recently, lauded Prime Minister Narendra Modi's efforts to understand the connection and the deep cultural roots between both the nations.
The way that he speaks, it really just touches your heart and you can't help but listen to him. And he really, really understands the connection, the deep cultural roots that we share with India, Trinidad and Tobago because of our history. And I know that all about the Trinbagonian who are here today, they really connected with him.
And joining us now for perspective on the visit of Prime Minister Narendra Modi to Trinidad and Tobago is Ambassador Virendra Gupta, former Indian High Commissioner to Trinidad and Tobago. Such a pleasure to have you, Ambassador Gupta, on DD India. Well, Trinidad and Tobago has laid out the red carpet for PM Modi, and their PM and President are both women of Indian ancestry, and both are known as Daughters of India. Just how special is this partnership between the two countries, considering their ties of ancestry and kinship?
Well, what characterizes India and Trinidad is not what you generally measure relationship in terms of dollars and cents, economic connect. But I think there is a huge cultural connect. There is a huge emotional connect. People who went from India as indentured labor 180 years ago to Trinidad, they have remained very rooted to Indian culture, and some corner of their heart flutters for India. So they have always felt this attachment, and I think Prime Minister's visit in a way responds to that kind of yearning in them to take forward this relationship. So I think the Indian origin people in Trinidad, who constitute roughly 50% of the country's population, which makes Trinidad a very, very special country. So I think this visit is extremely important, symbolic, historic, I would say, because no visit has taken place in the last 25 years. I personally feel that we ought to pay greater attention to countries with large diaspora population, because it helps to empower our Indian diaspora. I must remember that Indian diaspora not only plays a very important role in our political connect with the countries where they live, but also in terms of spreading Indian culture. We talk a lot about Indian soft power, the goodwill for India. And that, I think, the people of Indian origin have been playing and can play an even bigger role in promoting India's goodwill and propagating and India's culture. So I think that this visit is important from that standpoint.
Absolutely. Well, Ambassador, PM Modi announced OCI cards, taking the point that you were making forward. And those cards will be issued now to 6th generation of people of Indian origin in Trinidad and Tobago. Will this gesture act as a bridge between the past and the present and continue to spread the goodwill that India enjoys there into the future generations as well?
Actually, I'm very happy that PM has made this announcement, because when I was there in 2001 to 2005, there were a lot of people who wanted to have the OCI cards. But unfortunately, while typically, for instance, a person could establish that his ancestors had come on a particular ship, the ship's documents showed the name of the ancestor. But the link got broken there, because that person could not establish his familial link with that individual who came on the venture on the ship, because Indian marriages, Hindu marriages were not recognized, so there was no record kept. And but of course, we could see that the person is of Indian origin. The color of the skin, indicated that the person was of Indian origin. So we made several suggestions that certification by the local authorities, municipal authorities. But eventually, it has happened, and I am so happy. People in Trinidad would greatly welcome that step, that announcement from the Prime Minister.
Absolutely. The initiative you wanted to happen has finally seen the light of day in a sense. But Ambassador, will PM Modi's address to the joint session of Parliament and also the conferment of Trinidad and Tobago's highest national honor upon him become historic milestones in the partnership that underscore mutual respect and shared democratic values?
Well, when I look at the program, starting with his welcome at the airport, it is a rare honor actually for a Prime Minister of a country, together with her entire cabinet, to go to the airport to receive. So I think that is a rare honor, which is in keeping with what Trinidad regards India as a very, very special country. I think very unique relationship that we have, which was symbolized. And then, of course, the conferment of the highest civilian honor of the country, and an invitation to him to address the joint session. All these things go to show that Trinidad is laying it out, the complete red carpet. They have been wanting to have this Prime Minister's visit from India for such a long time. And I think, in a sense, Prime Minister, I must say that Prime Minister Modi has been very conscious of the role that the Indian diaspora can play. And he has been increasingly leveraging that connect every time he goes abroad, whether it's America or whether it's Fiji or whether anywhere. He makes it a point to attend the gathering of the Indian community. Indian community can play a very, very important role in countries like America. They have been helping us connect politically. In countries like Trinidad, which really don't matter to us so much in terms of politics of the world, but they play a very important role in promoting India's culture. And I think Prime Minister's visit, as I said, to a diaspora prominent country helps empower the Indian community, helps them encourage, give them a sense of involvement in India. And I think that's very important messaging.
Great. So you've spoken about the cultural connect and the emotional connect, the people-to-people ties. between India and Trinidad and Tobago. But in terms of regional cooperation with the Caribbean region and South-South cooperation, what does PM Modi's visit really mean?
Look, Trinidad is an important member of CARICOM, which is about a 16-member grouping. And any reckoning, whenever we try and secure membership or want membership of a prominent organization, for instance, UN permanent membership of the Security Council, when we do that, at some point in time, we will have to stack up numbers. And in that, CARICOM is going to play an important role. So I think we must pay emphasis to CARICOM, and there our partnership with Trinidad, our unique relationship with Trinidad, Suriname and Guyana, all these three countries are in CARICOM. And I think that can be leveraged, that can be used for getting our candidacy supported by this group of nations. 16 is a very, very large number in the international community today. So I think that it has to be at the back of our mind.
And also South-South cooperation, considering that India has been a very strong voice as far as espousing issues related to the global South or the developing world is concerned.
Look, India has always paid attention to reaching out to the global South. Whether it was our G20 summit, which was held in India, or our various initiatives that we have taken. In the BRICS itself, which we regard as an important outreach platform for the Global South. We are very particular that the Global South voice must be heard, and they have a unique viewpoint. In very many areas, their interests are not fully being complied with. Take for instance climate change. The developed countries are largely responsible for the climate's depredation, but they are not paying the requisite amount of funds, and the entire pressure then comes on the developing countries. So I think developing countries' point of view has to be put, and India is taking the lead. India is trying to create a platform. We also did the virtual summit of the Global South. So whichever way in our diplomatic outreach, in our foreign policy, connecting with the Global South and giving a voice to the Global South through various platforms is an important component, is an important dimension of our foreign policy.
Ambassador, China we know is deepening its influence in the Caribbean region, particularly in Trinidad and Tobago, through a combination of economic investments, infrastructure projects, strategic partnerships, to name a few. Trinidad and Tobago we know was the first Caribbean country to join the BRI. Is this economic engagement often characterized by asymmetrical power dynamics, where Chinese state-backed firms negotiate from a position of strength with smaller, economically vulnerable Caribbean governments who have less bargaining power? And does India offer a healthier alternative? Also in terms of trade cooperation, where do you see this going, considering that Trinidad and Tobago is strategically located and one can also leverage, with mutual benefit in mind, its ports and logistics network?
Well, I don't think we ought to be too greatly obsessed by China. China has its own strengths, and we have our own strengths. The good thing would be, the better would be.
But from the Trinidad and
if
I may come here, Ambassador, I understand what you are saying, but even from the perspective of the Caribbean nations, the developing world, from the perspective of Trinidad and Tobago, won't it be better to have a symmetrical power dynamic than an asymmetrical power dynamic? Won't they stand to benefit more rather than get caught up in a debt trap diplomacy?
Look, it doesn't matter what we think. When the Chinese throw a lot of money, there would be many takers. The amount of money that China can put on the table is fairly significant for many countries in the Caribbean. And I don't blame them, because if they stand to benefit from a relationship, I think what we get insecure that if China makes an entry into a country, the space for India would be constricted. I do not believe in that approach. There is enough for everybody. And I think India has to focus on doing things that suit our USP. There is the kind of technology that we can bring in. We don't enlay the countries into the debt trap. we are very sincere in our cooperation. We try and do capacity building. So over a period of time, countries are able to see through what designs that do you have. We don't play divisive politics in those countries. So I think we should leave the countries to pursue their own respective paths. They have good relationship. I mean, particularly Trinidad. Trinidad has a very, very special, unique relationship with India, and China can't get anywhere near it.
Absolutely. Well said. India believes in what is a quote-unquote equal partnership really with countries in the developing world, and Trinidad and Tobago is one such country, like you said. India believes in empowerment of these countries. India believes in capacity building. Well, we leave it at that. Thank you, Ambassador Gupta, for joining us with your views on Prime Minister Narendra Modi's ongoing visit to Trinidad and Tobago, the second leg of his ongoing five-nation visit. Prime Minister Narendra Modi immersed in the rhythm of Bihar's Bhojpuri music, which was performed in Port of Spain. The performance was a powerful reminder of the deep-rooted historical and emotional ties forged between India and the Caribbean. Prime Minister also met Trinidadian singer Rana Mohib, who had sung Vaishnav Janto during the celebrations of the 150th birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi, held a few years ago. He also retweeted the song on social media platform X. Let's listen in. Time now for us to take a breather. We'll be back with more news.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the Economic Brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. Let's do a recap of the headlines. Prime Minister Narendra Modi addresses a large gathering of the Indian diaspora in Trinidad and Tobago, announces OCI cards for the 6th generation of people of Indian origin in the country. Prime Minister Narendra Modi receives a grand welcome in Port of Spain with a ceremonial guard of honor and special cultural performances. In a special gesture, PM of Trinidad and Tobago Kamla Persad Bisesar and members of a cabinet receive PM Modi at the airport. US President Donald Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill passes the Congress hurdle. Trump hails the sweeping tax and spending legislation as one of the most successful pieces of legislation in American history. In Birmingham Test, Shubman Gill's masterful double 100 puts India in the driver's seat against England. Visitors eye early wickets to extend dominance on day 3. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has addressed numerous parliaments, legislatures and other legislative bodies around the world during his tenure. PM Modi is going to address the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago later today. His addresses, which transcend continents, are a testament to India's growing influence on the global stage. Let's take a look at this report.
There could be no better. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has set a historic record, delivering 14 addresses to foreign parliaments since 2014. The most by any Indian leader, from Bhutan to the US, Australia to Guyana. Modi's speeches have spanned 5 continents, highlighting India's expanding diplomatic footprint and global influence. Each address has strengthened bilateral ties, boosted cooperation in trade, defense, and technology, and projected India as a confident, proactive democracy. These landmark speeches have elevated India's global stature, doubling the record set by his predecessor and underscoring India's commitment to multilateralism and shared democratic values. And now, during his landmark 5-nation tour, Prime Minister Modi will address the parliaments of Ghana, Namibia and Trinidad and Tobago, further deepening India's ties across the global south and the Atlantic. PM Modi's record-setting diplomacy, India's voice, now truly global.
In Washington, President Donald Trump is riding a wave of political victories both at home and abroad. His landmark tax and spending bill, dubbed the One Big Beautiful Bill, has narrowly passed the US Congress, marking a significant boost to his second-term agenda. A correspondent brings us this report.
There could be no better birthday present for America than the phenomenal victory we achieved just hours ago when Congress passed the One Big Beautiful Bill to make America great again.
For a man who once boasted his supporters would get tired of winning, Donald Trump is living up to the promise. His latest triumph is the passage of a sweeping tax and spending bill narrowly approved by Congress in a tight 218 to 214 vote. The sprawling $4.5 trillion package fulfills many of Trump's campaign promises, from increased military spending and funding for mass migrant deportations to extending tax relief measures from his first term.
This bill includes the largest tax cut in American history, the largest spending cut in American history, the largest border security investment in American history, although I must tell you, if you saw last month, they had 0 people coming through our border, 0.
The bill seals Trump's hardline U.S. domestic policy into law, in contrast to the rush of presidential executive orders he signed that can be overturned by his successors. President Trump hailed the bill's passage as a major boost to the U.S. economy, promising it will send America into a rocket ship. After days of tense negotiations and late-night talks, Speaker Mike Johnson managed to unite a fractious Republican House behind the bill, overcoming vocal dissent from within the party.
And we knew that if we won, and we believed we would, we knew that if we got unified government, we'd have to quite literally fix every area of public policy. Everything was an absolute disaster under the Biden-Harris radical, woke, progressive Democrat regime. And we took the best effort that we could in one big, beautiful bill to fix as much of it as we could.
Meanwhile, Democrats led by House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries waged a nearly 9-hour speech marathon opposing the legislation, calling it a reckless Republican budget that favors the wealthy at the expense of everyday Americans.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today in strong opposition to Donald Trump's one big, ugly bill. This disgusting abomination, the GOP tax scam that guts Medicaid, rips food from the mouths of children, seniors, and veterans, and rewards billionaires with massive tax breaks.
Former President Joe Biden echoed these concerns, calling the bill not only reckless, it's cruel. The White House is calling it a hot Trump summer, celebrating a series of wins that have bolstered Trump's standing, including recent progress toward an Iran-Israel ceasefire and a NATO spending deal. But as the president gears up for a reimposition of steep tariffs on dozens of global economies, uncertainty looms in international markets. Trump's winning streak has meanwhile fueled the self-belief of a man who said he had been saved by God to make America great again after he survived an assassination attempt last year. Bureau Report, DD India.
Now let's understand some of the key items and highly debated issues in Trump's bill in our latest report by Ayushi Bhatnagar.
The One Big Beautiful Bill is a sprawling piece of legislation exceeding 1,000 pages that aims to deliver on several of Donald Trump's campaign promises from the 2024 elections. This package honors many of Trump's campaign promises like boosting military spending, funding a mass migrant deportation drive, and committing $4.5 trillion to extend his first-term tax relief. It also includes a $5 trillion increase in the nation's debt ceiling. Let's take a look at some of the key items and highly debated issues in the bill. President Trump's 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act seeks to make the cuts permanent, a key priority for Senate Republicans. 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act lowered taxes and increased the standard deduction for all taxpayers. Bill will increase the standard deduction by $1,000 for individuals, $1,500 for heads of households, and $2,000 for married couples. The bill exempts tips and overtime pay from federal income taxes, proposes to gradually phase out the benefits based on annual income, benefits to expire in 2028, right before Trump's term as president ends. Child tax credit would permanently increase to $2,200 under the Senate bill. The bill also proposes raising the debt ceiling by $5 trillion, more than the $4 trillion approved by the House last month. Lifting the debt limit will allow the government to pay for programs already approved by the Congress. Rise in the deduction limit for state and local taxes from $10,000 to $40,000, though after 5 years it would return to $10,000. The bill would slash Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, SNAP, which helps people afford groceries. Senate bill requires states to contribute more to the program, would reduce food stamps by around 20%. The bill also cuts Medicaid, which provides health care to poor and disabled Americans. Childless adults without disabilities would be required to work at least 80 hours per month from December 2026. Shift in re-enrollment to Medicaid from once a year to every 6 months. Bill proposes to lower provider taxes from 6% to 3.5% by 2032. The bill would fund new sections of the border wall, increase surveillance, and build more detention facilities. Immigration and Customs Enforcement will receive $45 billion for detention facilities, subsidies and tax breaks for clean energy projects. Bill proposes a new tax on clean energy projects. Wind and solar power projects will face a new excise tax. The One Big Beautiful Bill is projected to increase the GDP by 0.4 to 0.8% over a decade, boosting investment and creating some 6.9 to 7.2 million jobs. It is set to strengthen border security with $150 billion for defense and immigration enforcement. However, Medicaid and SNAP cuts may leave 7.8 million uninsured by 2034. Ayushi Bhatnagar's report for DD India.
President Donald Trump said that he is planning to start sending letters informing trading partners of the tariff rates as soon as Friday. As negotiations to avoid higher US levies enter the final stretch, his comments come days before steeper duties are set to take effect on dozens of economies, customized to each of them, ranging from Taiwan to the European Union. These tariffs were part of a broader announcement in April where Trump imposed a 10% duty on goods from almost all trading partners with a plan to step up these rates for a select group within days. But he swiftly paused the hikes until the 9th of July, allowing for trade talks to take place. US officials have signaled that there could be a flurry of trade pacts announced in the coming days.
You know, my inclination is to send a letter out and saying what tariff they're going to be paying. It's just much easier. We have, you know, far more than 170 countries. And how many deals can you make? And you can make good deals, but they're very much more complicated. I'd rather, and I've been like this from the beginning, I'd rather send out a letter saying this is what you're going to pay to.
Here is a rundown of what Trump has implemented in his second presidency, with levies on dozens of economies set to bounce from 10% to a range between 11 and 50% on the 9th of July. While Trump imposed a 10% tariff on most US trading partners in April, so far the UK and Vietnam have struck pacts with the United States, while China has managed to temporarily lower tit-for-tat duties. Immediate US neighbors, Canada and Mexico, are not affected by the 10% global tariff. China has borne the brunt of Trump's levies. US and China imposed triple-digit tariffs on each other's goods. At one point, after high-level talks, Washington agreed to lower its levies on Chinese goods to 30% and Beijing slashed its own to 10%. The US level is higher as it includes a 20% tariff imposed over China's alleged role in the global fentanyl trade. In March, he imposed a 25% levy on steel and aluminium imports, and in April, he doubled them to 50%. He has also rolled out a 25% tariff on imported autos, although those imported under the US-Mexico-Canada Agreement or USMCA can qualify for a lower levy. Canadian and Mexican products were initially hard hit by 25% US tariffs with a lower rate for Canadian energy. He eventually announced exemptions for goods entering his country under the USMCA, covering large swaths of products. Potash, used as fertilizer, got a lower rate as well. And the latest US-Vietnam deal in US President Donald Trump has imposed a flat 20% tariff on all Vietnamese exports to the US. This is a move that could disrupt Vietnam's $135 billion export flow and reverse 2 decades of trade liberalization. Back home, President of India Draupadi Murmu unveiled the trophy of the 134th edition of Durand Cup on Friday, which is set to begin on the 22nd of July. The Durand Cup is Asia's oldest football tournament, and this time the matches of the 134th edition will be played in 5 states. Imphal of Manipur are expected to make a much-awaited comeback. President flagged off the Durand Cup, stating the game as one of the most popular sports events in India. West Bengal, Assam, Meghalaya, Manipur and Jharkhand will host the games this season.
डुरांड कप भारत में फुटबॉल की परंपरा का एक प्रतीक है। मुझे अवगत कराया गया है कि डुरांड कप एशिया का सबसे पुराना फुटबॉल टूर्नामेंट है। अनेक उत्कृष्ट फुटबॉल टीम में इस टूर्नामेंट का भाग लिए हैं। इस बार डुरांड कप पूर्वी और उत्तर पूर्वी भारत में आयोजित किया जा रहा है।
Niti Aayog on Thursday launched a report on the chemical industry powering India's participation in global value chains. According to the report, India eyes a $1 trillion chemical output by 2040 and aims to increase its GVC share from 3.5% in 2023 to 5 to 6% by 2040, igniting India's chemical transformation and creating large employment opportunities, 7 lakh additional employment by 2030. DD India correspondent Vishal Baristo caught up with Arvind Veermani, member of Niti Aayog, to find out more.
Niti Aayog has just released its report on the chemical industry, and I have with me a member of Niti Aayog, Mr. Veermani. Let's talk to him and first talk about the report. Sir, what are your initial reactions?
I think they are very necessary and useful for the industry. The industry people I continue to meet and have been meeting for many years. Many of them have asked that what does the government think? What is the future? Because we are talking about 6th-generation Bharat. So tell me, what is the future of, let's say, the chemical industry or fertilizer industry? The broad picture, I think, is very important so that all stakeholders, industry, the producers, the users, etc., have some idea of developments which have been discussed with a number of stakeholders.
So, chemical industry is also the 4th largest sector for India, and the report says that India plans to increase its global share. Apart from that, it can also be a game changer as far as employment generation is concerned.
From a broad economic perspective, there is a capital intensive part in the chemical sector. The very heavy chemicals, large plants are needed. The other part is the skill intensive, like specialty chemicals, etc., where greater skills, training, etc., is needed. But when we talk about any industry, we are talking about both direct and indirect. And the report has given some projections about both output and employment.
So there you heard Mr. Veermani. He says that correctly that this report prepares a blueprint on how India can improve upon its global share as far as chemicals are concerned. With cameraman Jagmohan in Delhi, this is Vishal Baristo for DD India.
India's Home Minister Amit Shah visited the National Defence Academy in Khadakwasla on Friday to install a statue of Peshwa Baji Rao. Shah mentioned that the most appropriate place for a memorial of Peshwa Baji Rao is the National Defence Academy. Installing a statue of Peshwa Baji Rao at the place where the soldiers of all 3 forces underwent their primary training is a testament to bravery and valour. He said every future soldier who shall pass out from the academy must take inspiration from Baji Rao's life, strengthening our borders for the years to come.
मैं मानता हूं कि पेशवा बाजीराव का एक स्मारक बनाने की सबसे उचित जगह अगर कोई है तो एनडीए पुणे की एकेडमी, जहां से आने वाले समय के देश की तीनों सेनाओं के सूत्रधार जहां प्रशिक्षित होकर निकलते हैं, वहां बाजीराव पेशवा की मूर्ति लगना और श्रीमंत बाजीराव के मूर्ति से प्रेरणा लेकर उनके जीवन कवन को अभ्यास कर अगर हमारे भविष्य के सेनानी जाते हैं तो मुझे विश्वास है कि कई सालों तक भारत की सीमाओं को कोई छूने का साहस नहीं कर सकता.
On to weather news now. Southwest monsoon reached India, with Indian Met Department forecasting sudden change in weather in the national capital region, particularly New Delhi. The national capital holds the possibility of thunderstorms with rain. Southwest monsoon has further advanced over remaining parts of Punjab and other parts of Rajasthan and Haryana. The rain spell in the eastern region of the country caused floods over North Odisha and Jharkhand and floods and landslides mainly over Himachal Pradesh. Meanwhile, due to heavy rains and cloudburst incidents 2 days ago, there has been massive destruction in Mandi of Himachal Pradesh. The route to reach far-flung Saranj and Janjeli has been washed away. According to the data received so far, 20 bodies have been recovered, whereas around 50 people are still reported to be missing. Moreover, around 50 tourists were stranded in Janjeli till last night. They are safe and efforts are being made to evacuate them. Relief material has been delivered by helicopters to the worst affected Thunag and Janjeli. Heavy rain across the state of Gujarat resulted in 3,703 people from across 10 districts being evacuated to safer places. Gujarat has recorded 36.5% of the season's average rainfall so far. The IMD has forecast extremely heavy rainfall for the South Konkan and Goa and Maharashtra. It has predicted heavy to very heavy rainfall for the Konkan, Goa and Gujarat regions during the next few days. In view of the incessant rain, an alert issued by the Indian Met Department, schools in Goa decided to declare holiday today across the state. In the wake of heavy rainfall in different parts of the country, Union Home Minister Amit Shah spoke with the Chief Ministers of Gujarat, Himachal Pradesh, Rajasthan, Uttarakhand and Chhattisgarh. Adequate numbers of NDRF teams have been deployed in the states for the people in need, and more reinforcements can be sent in as and when required. He also assured Chief Ministers of all states of all possible assistance from the central government. In sports news, reigning world champion D. Gukesh stunned world number 1 Magnus Carlsen yet again at the Super United Rapid and Blitz Croatia 2025 in Zagreb, extending his win streak to 5 on Thursday. With Gukesh standing triumphant, he emerged as the sole leader with 10 points at the end of the second day, with Carlsen trailing with 6 points. With just 3 rounds to come in rapid section, Gukesh enjoys 2 points lead over nearest rival Doordarshan Krzysztof of Poland. Wesley So of United States is in sole third spot on 7 points, a full point clear of Carlsen, Anish Giri of Holland and local hero Ivan Sarik. Jack Draper crashed out of the ongoing Wimbledon 2025 after losing to Marin Cilic, who took 2 hours and 39 minutes to win the match 6-4, 6-3, 1-6, 6-4. After enduring back-to-back knee surgeries in 2023 and 2024, Cilic's run to the third round of a Grand Slam is a testament to his resilience and love for the game at the age of 36. World number 1 Jannik Sinner's seamless start to his bid for a first Wimbledon title continued with a dominant straight set win over Australia's Alexander Vucinic. Italy's Sinner lost just 5 games in another commanding display on centre court. Sinner overpowered his 93rd ranked opponent in just 100 minutes to reach the third round. The 3-time major winner won 6-1, 6-1, 6-3, having conceded only 7 games in his opening match as he offered another ominous warning to his rivals. Shubman Gill's mammoth 269 powered India to 587 in the first innings of the second test at Edgbaston. Gill effortlessly compiled the highest score by an Indian batter in England and the highest score by an Indian skipper anywhere in the world. England's top order crumbled after the play of 5 sessions in the field. By stumps on day 2, the hosts were 77 for 3 and in deep trouble. Ben Duckett and Oli Pope fell to back-to-back balls from Akashdeep. Both were caught in the slips. Zach Crawley edged Mohammad Siraj on 19. India under pressure before the test have taken total control. Harry Brook looked unsettled despite scoring 30. Joe Root remained unbeaten on 18 at close. Today is the second day for Amarnath Yatra pilgrims to offer prayers at the Holy Cave. Pilgrims trek through treacherous mountain paths to glimpse the naturally formed ice shivling inside the cave believed to represent Lord Shiva himself. Tourism has been a key driver of Jammu and Kashmir's economy. The Amarnath Yatra is expected to give a major boost to tourism in the region this year also, drawing both pilgrims and tourists. In 2024, Jammu and Kashmir recorded an impressive 23.59 million tourist arrivals, including pilgrims. The 37th Jagannath Rath Yatra celebrated in Paris with great devotion, joy and unity. The grand chariot procession of Lord Jagannath, Lord Balbhadra and Devi Subhadra moved through the streets with great enthusiasm. Over 5,000 people participated in the festival. That's all in this edition of DD India News Hour, but do share your thoughts with us on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. You can scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. This is Munmun Bhattacharya from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour. Namaskar.